Right, hello ladies and gents, welcome to this tutorial on how to use Bandlab Cakewalk for a mid-side recording mixdown. This recording was made in December and features some jolly Christmas music that I hope you will enjoy. So let's first look at Cakewalk, which is a free digital audio workstation for Windows, sadly not currently available for Mac, which is a real shame because it's really rather good. So when you first open Cakewalk, you get presented with the various templates options. I'm going to use an empty project so you can see how everything is set up. So the recording I'm using was captured using a C1000S small diaphragm condenser mic pointing directly at the centre of the performance using a cardioid polar pattern and placed directly underneath. Sideways on, we use an AKG C414 wide diaphragm studio condenser mic set with a figure of 8 polar pattern in order to pick up the left and right of the room. The mics are positioned directly one above the other to avoid phasing issues. So to get started, I need to create two audio tracks in Cakewalk, so to bring these two recorded signals in. So to add tracks, click on the plus sign. It's rather like Logic this, with a plus and a box there to duplicate a track as well. Add two tracks, don't need to worry about inputs because the audio is already recorded. Right, it's straightforward to just drag and drop audio in Cakewalk, which is quite handy. So let's go and get the respective audio clips now. C1000. And just going to nudge those across so they both start from the beginning, and don't forget to label your tracks for clarity. So label them how you like. I'm going to label these by mic actually. You could just do mid and side. Right, like any other digital audio workstation, Cakewalk has zoom functions that allow you to focus on what you need to see. Zoom out so you can see the waveform. So the start of this recording is unwanted noise, but by zooming out I can kind of see where the music actually starts, and I'm able to truncate out any unwanted noise. So the edit tool is really quite nifty, it's quite unique to Cakewalk. Along with a very intelligent snap function, it can work out where events are happening. It's a single action, you just click with the razor blade, drag across the bit you don't want, let go, and now you press it, it's gone. And with that intelligent snap, I can do exactly the same on the other track and get the cut in exactly the same place. Just move these back. There, I'm happy with the start point. Right, so I now need to turn the C414 bidirectional signal into stereo. And for this, I need to duplicate the C414 track and copy the waveform across, nudging the region neatly to the start of the project as well, obviously. So that's me duplicating the track. I'm going to use my controller to select, Control and C and copy, just like any other piece of software. Make sure you've got your track selected. Tried this before and it went on the same track. I thought, oh, where's that gone? There. And now, of course, don't forget to label your tracks accordingly. I mean, we're not there yet, but I'm preparing for left and right. So for now, all I've done is duplicated the track and so added volume. So to create the desired stereo effect, I need the Cakewalk mixer. This wasn't easy to find at first, to be honest. However, it is locatable under the views and console view. So there we go. And there's the 3 tracks I have created. There's a number of tracks you can't see at the moment, but I'll come to that in a moment. First thing I'm going to do is pan the tracks left and right. And there's the pan there. So left, and then right on that one. And there we have stereo. Well, actually no, not yet. These two sounds are identical, so despite the hard panning, we've still technically got mono. Stereo works on the basis that the left and right audio signals are different in terms of their advantage. So our ears hear things from different points of view, so to speak. So to create that difference, we're going to invert the polarity of one of the C414 channels, and this literally flips the waveform upside down. And the outcome is an identical timed waveform, only the positive peaks become negative and vice versa. We hear the same sound, but upside down. And it's this difference that gives us the opposite advantage of the figure of 8 signal. There's the control there, that symbol. Now click that and you've got what's called a inverted, it says phase here, it's inverted polarity. Technically, phase is where two signals are slightly out of sync with each other and start cancelling the certain frequencies out. So, right, have a listen as I switch to polarity on and off, and you'll hear the difference between mono and stereo now. That's with it on. It's off. Very flat. On, you can hear the stereo spread all of a sudden. There it is, off again. There it is. Right, so now we have a mid-side mix, but there is more that we can do to improve this. So first, we need control over how much stereo is in the mix. And this is done by lowering or raising the level of the C414 stereo mix. To make this successful, I'm going to add a stereo bus that will control both sides of the C414 mix with one fader. So as I want to send the whole signal to this bus, I'm actually just going to replace the output from master to new stereo bus, and it's created a new bus there called bus D. Send that to the same one. You can't see them yet. There's actually a number of channels we can't see yet in the mixer. If you go to strips and tick on buses, add that little lot in. Actually, what we have here is the master bus we couldn't see before. We've got a metronome and preview bus. I'm not using those at the moment, but I'm just going to leave them there for time. I mean, there's bus D. Just added, rename it if you want to, otherwise you might get a bit confused. So C414 stereo mix. And of course, if you look at the routing, that then goes to the master. So it's gone from these two channels to one stereo bus to the master, and it means that I've got control over how much stereo by raising and lowering that fader. I quite actually like the full stereo more or less, so I'm going to leave it pretty much where it was. The first thing I'm going to do to improve this is add some EQ to the C414 stereo mix. The reason for this is because bass frequencies don't respond well to stereo. They tend to make your mix muddy, you get phase issues. Stereo works far better on mono. There's no bass instruments per se in this mix, but still some bass frequencies. So for this I'm going to use the inspector here on the left hand side. It's got a paragraphic EQ plugged in. It's a combination of parametric controls, a bit like an analog mixing desk, and a graphic representation here to see what you're doing. It's also got some useful filters at the bottom, which I'll explain in a moment. So make sure we've got the right channel selected. It's got the C414 stereo mix, says so down here. And the easiest way to roll some bass off this is to use the high pass filter. It allows high frequencies to pass through. Switch it on, you see that it cuts off some bass frequencies, and as you move this control up, it cuts more and more. So if I isolate this by, I'll just click solo there for a moment, you should hear virtually nothing. So it's a bit too much cut off, but there we go, that's nothing cut off. I'm going to knock off around about 120 and under, and that will allow the bass to shine through on the mono channel only. And that adds a certain amount of clarity to your mix as well. I'm going to come back to the EQ later on. We'll leave it like that for now. The next thing I'm going to do is to add some compression to the center mix, the C1000. So again, I could use the console there in the inspector, but just for sake of difference, I'm going to show you how to use the inserts. So for that, I'm going to use the effects plugins, inserts on the channel strip. Click on the plus sign to show what you've got available. Insert audio effects. Now, it's ready to do a little bit of investigation. The channel itself, I think it said it's peaking up around at -13. Let's have a look. You can see, there we are, these numbers at the bottom 0.0 is the position of the fader, -13 is the peak level it's reached so far. So the threshold for your compression needs to be below -13 at the start. Somewhere below about -20. And then to give it a ratio, which is how it's going to compress by. And the more you compress by, you'll see the gain reduction coming in, but I want it quite subtle. Take the threshold down a bit, there we go. It's lost a little bit of definition there, so to get some of that definition back, I'm going to increase the attack slightly to allow more of the puff noises to come through before the compression starts. Compression starts even. There we are. Just reset the gain levels. I've lost a couple of decibels in relative gain, so I'm just going to push it up again. There we are. This unit's already got a limiter plugged in. It's switched on. It's on for protection only at the moment for going over 0 decibels, so I might as well leave it on. My advice is never use presets on compressors because every single situation is unique. The last thing I want to do is all a bit dry. I want to add some reverb to this. I'm going to add reverb to the stereo channel only, so we'll get a nice spread of reverb to complement the recording. And for this, I'm going to use the sends this time. If I set up a send, it means I set up a separate channel for the reverb, and I can send signal from any channel to that reverb unit. So to do that, you find the sends in your channel strip, click on the plus sign, and we're going to add another stereo bus. Rename this reverb. And just like with the compressor, you then go to the inserts or the effects on that channel strip. Plus. Reverb 2 is Cakewalk's own. Reverb processor is very good. It's got lots of presets. I want something that sounds like a concert hall, so I've got hall, plate room, all sorts, 80s and 90s. Lots of fun to be able to go through those. I'm going to stick with hall. I spotted that earlier. Warm orchestra, surely that's going to do the job. So you can also mess around with the settings yourself, but this is where presets do work on reverb units. You can fiddle, tweak them afterwards. You've got like reverb time and room size, how much clutter in the room, and so on and so forth. You don't need any dry signal. So dry signal is the original signal with no reverb on it, and wet is the reverb signal. So we want 100% reverb and 0% dry in this mix, because if I close that again, we've got this control here to blend between wet and dry. So before I trigger anything, you've got another decision to make here, and that is, are you going to send signal to this reverb unit pre or post fader? Now what that means is set a post to the moment, which means that the signal's coming through this channel, through the fader, and then going to the reverb unit, whereas pre would be it's coming in, it's going off the reverb unit and off to this channel separately, which gives me more independent control. It's up to you how you play this. I'm going to put it on post, which means that if I get the right balance between wet and dry, if I want to lower the signal of the stereo mix, then the reverb lowers with it, and I think that's probably the most useful in this instance. Let's give this a listen. It's on 0.0, which means it's neither boost nor cut, so it's the maximum amount of signal going through to the reverb moment, which will sound a bit over the top. See now. Yeah. Make it a little bit more subtle. That's better. Right, and the last thing I'm going to do is, because going back to the stereo mix bus, is because the upper frequencies also tend not to reverb that much in natural reverb, I'm just going to use the low pass filter to slice off the very highest frequencies. I'm too deaf to hear anyway, but you might. Just make it sound a bit more natural. And now I've got my mix, I think. Yes, very happy with that. One last thing to check before you do finish, and that is have a look at your master bus. And these numbers here, at the moment it's peaking at -10.1. I'm going to reset that by clicking on it and watch it for a little while. So essentially what you want is to leave enough headroom for your mastering. So peak at -8.1. Also go through the whole thing and make sure, but that's going to be around about -8 decibels. Leaves 8 decibels of headroom, which is plenty for an audio engineer to add mastering. Typically they ask for -6 decibels or 6 decibels of headroom. You can go as much as 10. Gives them loads of space for adding lots of compression and other stuff in the mastering process. So there we go, spot on, very happy with that. All I need to do is file, export audio, and set up where I'm sending to, and away I go. Thanks for listening.